Hey, Arkansas Softball Central. I'm in my assumed position because today's going to be a doozy. It might be a little bit longer than normal because we got tons of information. We got tons to talk about. I'm Joley Mitchell. That's Jared Hawthorne. Again, I'm just going to throw it to Jared so he can get to talking about 4A and the recap and all the things we need to know.
Well, 4A has always been one that we've talked about over and over, being another one that's tough to figure out who's the top teams, and there's so many good teams and all that kind of stuff. Before I go any further, just so y'all know, it's storming where I'm at while we're doing this podcast. So if you hear a little thunder rumbling or it covers up something I'm saying, I'm sorry, but we got to get it done, and it hadn't quite passed yet. So anyway,
Just to let everybody know that it's not going to be me, it's going to be Jared.
yeah, well, it might be Joley like eating food or something over there. I don't know. Yeah, crunching in the
No,
microphone.
making those cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, yeah. She told me she was making homemade cinnamon rolls. Hadn't brought me any, so I see how it is.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm just gonna go down the rankings that I have and talk about some of the teams, the top 6 or 7 teams, and a few that are just out. And we're going to go by the rankings that I had early in the week. Now, everybody's played a game or two, so these may not be in the order that they will be when y'all see the next rankings in the next day or two. So, but we'll just go by the order I had early in the week. First off in 4A, and I've got P Ridge first, and I'll say this: I have, you know, P Ridge and Malvern to me are really close this year for that top spot. Both teams are really good. I have P Ridge first just because they have a little bit stronger schedule, played a little bit more tough teams and higher class teams than Malvern has. Malvern is extremely talented, looking really good this year. So it really is kind of hard to figure out between those two for me who's running number one right now on rankings. But for the time being, I have Pine P Ridge number one. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of info. I'm gonna go through a few of the girls that are getting to play a lot, doing well, and contributing, and then we'll talk about them as a team. I think we got to start when we talk about P Reed. We got to start with Hope Conkler, who is a senior shortstop pitcher, and I've heard a lot of really good things from several coaches. Heard this name mentioned probably 5 or 6 times from different people. She's hitting the ball well. She's batting over 500. She's got a high on base, middle 600s, but she's also throwing the ball really well. She's got 57 innings pitched, 94 strikeouts, a 1.2 ERA, and a 9-1 record. Knowing who they've played and as many high classification teams as they've played, 5 and 6A schools and stuff, and she's got a 9-1 record and that kind of ERA and strikeout rate. She's doing a really good job in the circle, hitting the ball well. Like I said, I can't stress enough the number of people I've heard say really good things about Hope Conkler. Really has stepped into that role as what they needed in the circle with the loss of Emery Bolin last year. Emery was a great pitcher, did a great job for a long career there, and Hope has really stepped up and filled that role really well and came in and done a good job for P Ridge. Now, this next name, if I butcher it, I am sorry. Tegan Huron, sophomore first baseman. She's batting 521, 36 RBIs. She's got a high on base percentage, almost 600 on base percentage. Don't know her personally, but once again, when I talked to coach over there, had great things to say about her, doing a good job. Next girl that I'm going to talk about, Mackenzie Whalen. I do know on a personal level. I've seen her play several times. Really outstanding job behind the plate. She's as good as I've seen around the state. Just defensive catcher, doing a really good job of like she blocks well, got a good arm. Like the defense side, she is really outstanding, and she's a really good hitter too. She's batting almost 500 on base percentage in middle 500s. Got 27 RBIs already. This is one that I actually had like 3 or 4 people just this week talking about how good she is playing this year. And I talked to a couple of these people this week because I was working on getting information on 4A, but some of the ones that were talking so highly of her were people who don't even see her in 4A. They just see her in summertime, but they saw her play this last week in high school ball. I'm like, man, she's doing a great job. So Mackenzie Whalen's really doing well. Haley Warden is a senior second baseman, hitting the ball well, high 400s and middle 500s for on base percentage, 24 RBIs. I mean, P. Ridge seems to be hitting the ball really well. I like to see 400 or 500 batting averages all up and down this list. So Zaylee's doing a great job. Lexi Vigil, she's a junior outfielder, batting middle 400s again, almost 500 on base percentage. Everywhere you look up and down this lineup, like you're seeing 400 plus hitters. That's pretty impressive. And then Abigail Rogers, senior outfielder and pitcher. She's another arm that they have that's doing well. She's got 75 innings pitched, 86 strikeouts, and 10-4 record. With Conkler and Rogers, they're doing a great job in circle, getting the job done. And Abigail's still batting, close to 400, doing a great job there. So P Ridge, top to bottom, we're going to talk about them a little bit as a team now. They are playing really solid, really sound ball. But above everything else, when I look at this, and the couple times I've watched them on Game Changer, haven't seen them in person. A couple times I've flipped over and watched them on someone else's Game Changer because P Ridge coach Josh Reynolds does not believe in Game Changer being public. He keeps it locked out. So I get to watch them every once in a while on somebody else's Game Changer on the live stream. But when I do get to see them, I see them hitting the ball. Like they consistently hit the ball. They hit it well. Just very impressed with that side of it. I have seen a couple of errors in the games I've watched, but nothing crazy. Like no off the wall stuff, like making mistake after mistake or stacking errors on the same play or any of that kind of stuff. I just happened to see a couple of errors in the games that I got to watch. But they're pitching it well, they're hitting it well. Most of the time they're playing good defense and they've got a really strong record. I have them, unless I can't find something, I have them at 18-5 currently. But like I said, I can't find it on their Game Changer, so I have to kind of piece it together off of other pieces. And I forgot to ask him. Usually, if I ask him, he gives me their updated record, and I forgot to ask him to get it before tonight. But P Ridge is really strong, doing a great job. Right now, I have them as number one state in 4A. You got anything on P Ridge?
I was just gonna say a couple things. I mean, this is probably one of the best lists as far as averages goes. We talked a little bit the other day about I can't remember which 3A school it was, but there was a 3A school who had several girls batting in the 500s, and it's just like that team is just solid. Another thing that I'm looking at is the pitching staff is also pretty solid. I mean, you have Conkler, you have Rogers getting the job done. Obviously, like we kind of get into talking about, bat to ball contact and like, are they a contact or two contact pitcher? Are they a strikeout pitcher? And I think they have the best of both worlds here. So obviously with Rogers being clearly more to contact because she has a little bit more than one. Conkler has almost two strikeouts per inning. You had a little bit of contact going on, so her ERA is a little bit higher, but of course, offense is picking it up by batting nearly 500 as a team. And then lastly, I was gonna say, looks like what stuck out to me is this battery leadership. You have the two pitchers in the mix here, and then you have Mackenzie Whalen that's also in the mix. So you've got great leadership between these three girls just controlling the game on the mound, and then they're getting the job done in the box. So I hope that they carry that on through the rest of the year. And now that maybe they hear a little bit of it, then maybe they can really tap into that. Pitchers and catchers can control the game. Not totally necessarily, but when you also are a huge part of the lineup, then you could be a difference maker. So hopefully those girls stick with each other and they kind of feed off of the energy that the battery gives for their team.
For sure. Definitely names that I heard over and over for the last several weeks have been Conkler and Whalen. There's been a lot of talk about how well they're playing and what's going on with them. So props to P Ridge and what they're doing, and so far holding down number one. And that's always subject to change. You take a loss somewhere, and somebody else gets a win. That may flip, but right now, I'm giving the edge to P Ridge for the number one spot in the ranking just because of their strength of schedule. We're going to go on down, and the next thing we're going to talk about that's competing for that number one spot right now, the closest to them is Malvern. Now, I do know quite a bit about Malvern. I know a lot of these girls. Unfortunately, I've seen too many of these girls up close in the summertime when they're beating us. But there's several of them play on the same travel team, and we have beat them a couple times more recently. Don't get me wrong, we've put our licks in a little bit too, but in general, they're a really good team. It's 3 or 4 of these that play on the same team in the summertime. But I'll say this: when you start talking about Malvern, you have to start with talking about Kendall Watson. Kendall Watson is
Obviously.
absolutely has to be in the conversation for the top hitter in the state of Arkansas. Not saying she is the top hitter in the state of Arkansas, but she's at least one of the three you have to talk about when you start talking about average, power, all of that stuff. Like, she is insanely strong. She can knock the cover off softball. I've seen her hit softballs well over 300 feet. Seen her hit them on the big fence at a park that we play out here in Hot Springs that has a 300-foot fence. Seen her hitting them over the fence there. So I know she can hit the ball. Seen too many of them fly over the fence when we're playing her. So yeah, she's really good when it comes to having a bat hand, but she's also really good when she's standing in a circle and throwing it. She's really strong as a pitcher, has pretty good movement, pretty decent curveball. I can tell you a little bit about that. Um, I've seen her set several kids in a row down on the same pitch, and they just can't figure it out. So, but this year at Malvern, she's batting close to 600. At the time that I got these stats, she had 11 home runs and 38 RBIs. I mean, she's killing it with the power side. And then 25 walks, and like 16 of those are intentional walks.
I'm gonna get there in a second. Just when it's
But
my turn,
yeah,
I got my
so
chance.
and then her on the pitching side, she's got 88 innings pitched, a 1.2 ERA, 15-0 so far this year when it comes to wins and losses in the circle. And I didn't write down her strikeouts, but I think she has right around 80 strikeouts in that 88 innings pitch. And they're playing some really good competition. So we'll talk about the team side of Malvern in just a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and mention a couple other players. Kendall, amazing. We've talked about her for every year we've done this. I think we even talked about her when she was an 8th grader. There's a big one coming, yeah. And so um, definitely huge props to Kendall Watson. Love that kid. Great character kid. She's athletic. You stick her anywhere on the field, she's going to perform. You can stick her in the outfield. She's crazy fast. People don't realize how fast she is because she's so tall, and so she's just like, this is a power hitter that also runs really fast, and so she can do it all. She can fly in the outfield. She's great at first base. She can pitch. She can stick her anywhere you want to put her on the field, pretty much. I've never seen her catch. That's maybe the only position I've seen her not play in her career that I've seen. Just outstanding, outstanding young lady. I really like her. I give her a hard time every time I see her, pick at her, joke with her, and always ask her why she's got to be so mean and hit home runs on us, stuff like that. She just smiles and she's quiet. She's so quiet, not a mean bone in her body, not an aggressive bone in her body until she has a bat in her hand, and then she's really mean. So you just don't want to throw the ball close to her.
Yeah,
Cool. At senior Alexis Jenkins, another kid, lots of power. She's got 8 home runs on the year, batting like 530 range and 40 RBIs. She knows how to hit when there's runners on base. Alexis is another one I've seen a lot of. Very impressed with this young lady. Really good skills. Anywhere you stick her. I think she's having to play catcher this year, but she normally is a really strong third baseman that I've seen her. I think she's committed to UAPB. I didn't mention Kendall's committed to East Texas A&M. And then Alexis, just another really athletic kid, really strong kid, lots of pop in the bat. Been very impressed with Alexis over the last 4 years when we've been covering her. Junior Raina Morgan. Raina is another really athletic kid. Malvern has loaded with athletic kids. I'm telling you,
clearly.
I mean, we're not talking about just kids that are, big kids that can hit it over the fence. We're talking about athletes. They can run. They're crazy fast. They can hit. Like, they're just, you got 8, 9, 10 utility players that can play just about anywhere on the field with this group. Um, and they've kind of been that way for several years. So very impressed with them. Raina has great speed. She's playing shortstop this year, batting middle 500s, 28 RBIs already. She's got 3 home runs. And now I may be mistaken, but when I remember seeing Raina, she's not really tall, big in stature, like some of these other girls. She's a smaller frame kid that can flat kill a softball. She swings it well for size and stature. Good speed. Very impressed with Raymond Morgan. And then sophomore, the other one that I have notes on, and there's probably 8 other kids we could mention from Malvern, but the one that I have notes on, sophomore Hattie Davis. All of these kids I've heard great things about, but I have heard several coaches raving about Hattie Davis. It started last year when she was a freshman. I had um, Mark Mindy, that his daughter used to play at Malvern, was telling me Hattie Davis can play. Like, this girl gives us another weapon. Like, she can go. I was like, man, you got a whole team full of weapons, and this is the freshman you're talking about? Well, there was a reason he was talking about it. Hattie Davis hitting the ball really well. She's got 3 home runs, over 20 RBIs. She's playing second base for them. And I think she's played a little bit all over the place this year for them too. But I've seen her in person once or twice since I talked to him last year, and then I've heard a ton about her lately. Hattie Davis is another really, really athletic kid. Can play the game pretty much in any phase of the game. So very impressed with her too. Malvern is a team. I'm gonna say this year, Malvern has really seemed to have taken another step where they had been really kind of they've been really good for 4, 5, 6 years now, where they would be looking good through the season, maybe either winning their conference or coming in second in the conference, and then they would get to state tournament, and it seemed like they'd always have a bad game, have 2 or 3 errors, or just leave some runners stranded, or something would go wrong, and they couldn't seem to get past either the first round or the second round of state tournament. When everybody would think they're a Final Four team, they're a Final Four team. Well, the Elite Eight's about as far as they could get. I'm going to say this year might be the year that they break that. They seem like they have turned a corner. They've got a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit more of a mix of young and old, but they've got that really strong senior leadership this year. Really outstanding players in that group. They're going to lose 2 or 3 really good ball players this year, but they have already got some really outstanding freshmen and sophomores coming up. So they're going to probably be strong for a little bit longer too, another 2 or 3 years. But I'm impressed with Malvern. Really like what they've done this year, and I do feel like this may be the year that they make a deeper run in state tournament. At least I feel like at least a Final Four run, maybe a state championship. So very impressed with Malvern. I'll flip it back over to you for a little bit on Malvern.
I think like they look at like the stats that we see, and I think that these are probably the most impressive now that I'm working my way down. But I think looking at these big and scary numbers is just proof. I mean, you look at 40 RBIs, 38 RBIs, 28. They're scoring a ton of runs. And so I know they're playing a good schedule. So, I mean, they have that potential. So that's something that, teams that are going to end up towards the Elite Eight, the semifinals, and then maybe the state finals, this is something that's really terrifying if I'm looking at this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to give my piece so I don't take an hour to talk about it. The whole intentional walk fiasco, I'm going to talk about it, okay? Because it's something that needs to be talked about. Was it a whole blow up? Yeah. You know why? Because even me as a hitter, and I compete with everything. Like, whatever I do, I'm a competitor. I hate the thought of giving up because somebody potentially is going to hit the ball 300 feet. They're kind of supposed to do that, and you have to make a better plan. So I think when you kind of approached it on Facebook and you brought it to light, like, how do you kind of work around that? My solution was just make a different plan. Like, here we go, me giving it up. But if you're going to throw to a power hitter, throw them low in the zone, throw them in, throw them out, throw them a changeup. If they hit it out, so be it. Like, you're not even giving yourself the opportunity to potentially get them out, and you're just kind of giving up. That's what the whole issue is about. That's why I have a problem with the intentional walk thing. And don't get me wrong, I had my fair share. I had my fair share of intentional walks in high school. I think my last 2 years I was walked like 80 times total. So there's still a lot of opportunity. I'm mad because that's a lot of opportunity for me to have base hits, hit home runs, all of those things, but I can't really control it, but I wish I could. So don't really strip that away from the hitters who are good. You make a better plan. Quit copping out on throwing two hitters. They're supposed to hit the ball. You're supposed to pitch around them. And giving up and just intentionally walking them, I think it's a problem. Whatever. I hope I stir it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll definitely stir it up with that one. But here's what I'll say, and I kind of got on a rant that day on Facebook. So here's what I'll say about the intentional walks. I do believe there is a place for it. I 100% believe that it is a
Sure.
tool, that there's a place for it. There's a time and a place, and you should absolutely use it to help your team win games, especially if you're down to an at bat that's going to make the difference in the game in a conference championship, state tournament, things like that. 100% runners on base, and this kid can mash, and it's going to make a difference in the ball game. I believe there is absolutely a place for the intentional walk, but early in the season, when it doesn't mean anything, non-conference, and even if there's a place for it in trying to win that game, what I the biggest issue I have with the intentional walks is when you are in those situations, early season doesn't count in conference, things like that. And then we completely take the bat out of the kid's hands and we walk them 5 or 6 times. That's where I get like sideways on the intentional walk. I would completely believe that there's a place for it. It's a tool for the game, all of those things, and I think intentional walks should be used at the appropriate time in the appropriate situations in the scenarios that make sense. Early
Well,
season, Prince, you should be learning to
yeah.
compete at that point, not just walking somebody and trying to take the bat out of their hands because you're scared of them. That's just my little part of the rant. Like I said, I see both sides of the argument. I completely agree. It is a part of the game,
I'm
and
not a
it should be
pitcher.
a
I
part.
don't get it. But
Yeah.
also,
So
okay, I was going to go like the college route. This is the last thing I'm going to say about it. I was going to go the college route, but I didn't even have to go that far. There's 100% of time and place for it. Junior year, we're playing Benton Harmony Grove in the state championship. I get up to bat. I base hit single first at bat. Okay. I get intentionally walked 4 times after that. We lose. I'm not even like, this isn't about me. Like, why would you want me to hit in a state championship game? Now, if it had been, early preseason, okay. But like, it's kind of the same thing in college where you can do that during SEC play because that matters when you get to the tournament with rankings. You do that when you're in a super regional because you're trying to get to the World Series. You don't do that in March in a high school game in Arkansas. Get over
yeah.
yourself.
Well, and like I said, even if you need to do it then to try to win that game once or twice throughout the game when somebody's batting 5 or 6 times, I can even see that. But five or six at bats in that situation, that's where I struggle with it. Now we'll get off that subject. Let's start talking about 4A softball again, because we'll have the whole world stirred up on that.
Got me
But
fired up.
yeah, for sure. And sorry, y'all, I'm eating cough drops like they're candy because I'm trying not to cough on air. So, Arm's a really good softball team. They have some really great hitters. I don't want to be the one on the other side having to pitch to them. So we'll leave it at that on that one. So next in my rankings, and it may, things may shift and all that stuff, but at the time we were doing this, and I don't see it changing for this one because I don't believe they lost. We're going to talk about Brooklyn. Okay. Well, Brooklyn has been really salty the last 2 or 3 years, and they're, doing a great job, well coached, just a good mix of kids, top to bottom, in different age groups. We've talked about several of these kids during the regular podcast because they're really doing well. So I'll just go down the list with some of these, and then we'll come back and talk about Brooklyn as a team. But with Brooklyn, you got to talk about one of the first things you got to talk about is Maya Curry. Maya Curry is one of the best, most athletic kids that I have seen. I've only seen her one time, I think, in person, and it was very briefly. Um, but I have seen her on film quite a bit. Gone back, try to watch some stuff because I was said, "Hey, y'all, look at this play she made." Yeah, she can play on any part of the game you want to talk about when it comes to defense, offense. She can hit. She can flash the leather. She can throw the ball. She's dealt with a little bit of injury stuff and been in and out, especially this year. But Amaya has been usually I see her either at shortstop or third base. And she played for Team USA. I think it was I don't remember if it was in 14U or 15U. Team USA. I think it was this last summer. She was one of the ones selected for Team USA. Did a great job, represented, and like they showed out. Like they looked really good. Um, this year, she's batting high 400s, almost 500. Has right out of 500 on base. 21 RBIs. She can hit laser beams. Hits well for average. Good speed. Good move. Like she's just a really, really athletic kid. If she can stay healthy, she's going to have a fantastic career in high school and beyond. Um, Madeline Connor, senior first baseman, batting like 460 with a middle 500s on base, got 17 RBIs. Um, one that I've heard a ton about this year, and I mean a ton. I've heard it from I don't know how many people. Is Brooke Pulliam, their freshman pitcher? Like this kid has got people buzzing. Like consistently has people talking about it. She got a 10-1 record, a 1.12 ERA, 110 strikeouts and 68 innings pitched, and she's also batting middle 300s. So Brooke Pulliam, I'm telling you, I've heard, oh, I don't know, at least probably 9 or 10 people talking about this young lady, how well she's throwing the ball, what she's doing as a freshman, and against really good competition. She's doing it against some really good teams. So putting up some kind almost video game numbers against some really good teams. Another one, Kennedy Brooke. She's a sophomore center fielder. This kid can fly. Like she can go. She's got, I want to say it's like a 2.7 home to first. Like it's insane. She can go. Um, she's batting around 400. Got middle 400 on base. 15 RBIs. She scored a lot of runs. 25 runs scored already. Just she does a really good job. She's outstanding defensively. This is another young one that Brooklyn's got that a lot of people are talking about. Kennedy's doing a really good job, and like I said, I hear about her speed on a pretty regular basis from several different coaches. It's in Hackett Farm. Junior pitcher outfielder. She's 6-2 with a 2.17 ERA and almost 400, almost 500 on base percentage. I'll say this about Aspen. Couple years in a row now, she's been asked to throw against some of the best competition in the state. Like she is fearless, goes out there and just goes to work. And she's a little bit more of a pitch to contact pitcher than a strike everybody out pitcher, but she does a great job of managing games, keeping them in games against really big teams where their offense can do the job that they need to do. Um, been really impressed. Last year she threw a lot of innings. And then this year, Brooke has come up and given them a second arm, and they've done a great job of those two sharing time and doing a really good job of putting Brooklyn in a good spot. I think that's one of the biggest steps that Brooklyn has taken this year is having two quality arms to really, give them the next step up. Kylie Combs is a freshman infielder. She's batting over 400, got almost a 500 on base percentage, 15 RBIs. Lexi Hamlet, freshman infielder. And I think those two kind of flip around where they play in the infield, batting middle 400s, um, almost 500 on base percentage. I mean, everywhere you look, this team's got people batting 400 and 500. I mean, another really good hitting team. And then, that we've talked about, and you did an interview with Emery Booker. And Emery, they lost to a broken ankle back 2 or 3 weeks ago. But here's what I will say about Erin. She was a great leader. She was a great ball player, but everything that I'm hearing, she's still right there wishing she was on the field, helping her teammates, cheering them up, still being an outstanding teammate. So you got to mention a kid, even though she's not playing right now. Emery Booker is a huge part of that team and helping lead them. And the other one that they lost, and I'm not sure if they're going to get her back or not. If it was a actual break or if it's something that they can get her back later in the year. They lost one of their freshmen, Finley Lawless, to another ankle. Ankles have just been a problem at Brooklyn. But Finley Lawless was one that I'd heard her name mentioned 2 or 3 times. She was doing a good job. She was pitching a little bit. She was DPing some. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know her status. If there's a chance of them getting her back as they go into the playoffs and that kind of stuff, or if she's out for the season. I know Booker's out for the season, but just a lot of talented players there at Brooklyn, and there's probably 2 or 3 others we should be mentioning, but these are the ones I had notes on and had in front of me. Uh, as a team, Brooklyn is very impressive, especially this year. They seem like they're kind of like Malvern has. They've been good the last couple of years. We've talked about them quite a bit. They couldn't quite get there, try to make that deep run, but this year looking really good. Got several quality wins. I went back. I think it was a few days ago when I was working on rankings and was looking at their quality wins. And I think I counted 6 quality wins for them. So, I mean, they're stacking quality wins, don't have a whole lot of ugly losses. I think they had maybe one loss right in there around the time when they lost Emery Booker. It wasn't a bad loss, but that was one that just kind of stalled them a little bit when we were moving in the rankings. And then since then, like they've come together, they're fired up and playing good ball. I mean, just really impressed with Brooklyn at this point, and I really think that they're going to have a chance to make that run, probably a Final Four or even a chance at the state championship. That's what I have on my side of the Brooklyn thing. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Especially I actually had texted Emery after the injury and I kind of was just giving her some advice because I've been that teammate that's been injured and it's really hard to step back or step in either way. So I encouraged her. I said, "Hey, this is a time for you to learn who you are, tap into that and still be a good leader." And so I think she dove headfirst into all that. So I commend her for that. It's not easy. You want to be out there with your team, but you got to do what you got to do. So as long as she keeps that up, I think they have a good chance. I mean, you lose a leader on the field, that's kind of hard to adjust in such a quick time. So it seems like the team is still doing just fine. So that means that they've got some natural leadership going on the field anyway, and then of course their stats speak for themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if Brooklyn makes it deep into the rest of the season, and curious to see how they kind of play out in the last few weeks. Just because I think a little bit early in the season it was a little bit here and there, but then it seems like they're on a roll right now. So seems like they're finding it right at the right time.
I think the biggest question for Brooklyn is not a matter of talent or their ability or their coaching. They're well coached, Coach Matt Dillon. All those things, they're doing a good job. If they can just stay healthy, I think they have a real chance to go deep. They've already lost a couple of injuries. They can't afford to lose a whole lot more. I know Amaya Curry's missed some games, been in and out. If she stays healthy, probably a big key to their success to go further into the playoffs and stuff. They can keep all their starters that they have left healthy. Going down the line, we're going to go to Wynne next. There's 2 or 3 or 4 teams that have a real argument to be in this group after the first 2 or 3 we've discussed here. But right now, we'll talk about Wynne. I'm gonna be the first one to say I wasn't huge on Wynne early in the year. Didn't know a lot about them. Still don't know a ton about them, but I'm starting to learn. I'm starting to pay attention. I'm doing a little better job of being a student here. But they've been impressive, and short of a couple of losses they took, I have them. I think at 18-3 right now. If I've got everything updated on my records, really impressive group. And I think, they've got some good senior leadership is a big thing about it. I noticed when I was looking at stats and looking at these players, several seniors listed in this. Strong team, senior leadership, really starting to put it together this year. And at 18-3, and they played several good teams this year. I know they had back-to-back wins over Lone Oak at one point, and when Lone Oak was still ranked number 1 in 4A. Really, they did a good job of getting the wins when they needed to. Now they've lost a couple since then, but I don't know if there's been some injuries played into that a little bit. Maybe coming down off that high of beating number 1 twice in the same week. I don't know, but it seemed like right behind the Lone Oak that they dropped like 2 out of 3. Um, so, but when we start talking about players, we got to start with Katie Hodges. She's a senior pitcher. She's an OBU commit, batting right at 500. RBIs, doing a really good job, and also strong in circle. 112 innings pitched, 130 Ks, right at a 2 ERA. She's done a great job of throwing the ball, hitting the ball. Now, Katie is one of the ones that I did know just by name from Wynne. I had heard her name multiple times the last couple of years and covered her a little bit the last couple of years when we talked about Wynne and 4A. So, really impressed with what she's done, and she's doing a good job. Then Mary Gilbreth, junior catcher, batting right at 500, 26 RBIs, 3 home runs. That's something I didn't mention for Katie. She also had 4 home runs. I missed that when I was reading some of her stuff. Katie had 4 home runs. Mary has 3 home runs, and she's doing a good job behind the plates. Caught several runners stealing, picked off several runners going second, mainly second from what I've seen. There's a couple others. I don't know Mary personally, but good stats, looking good. And like I said, early in the year, I didn't know hardly anything about Wynne, like no names, hardly anything. Katie was like the only one I knew from Wynne. So, but some of these other names I've heard mentioned 2 or 3 times now as Wynne's become more prevalent and all the same. Lindsay Andrews, senior outfielder, batting almost 500, 29 or 29 hits, 16 RBIs. Lindsay's doing a good job hitting the ball. Savannah Brown, senior shortstop, batting almost 500. She's got 35 stolen bases, so Savannah Brown can roll. She's got some wheels. That's pretty impressive, 35 stolen bases. Caitlin Tansey, senior third baseman. She's batting almost 400, 13 RBIs. So, I mean, everywhere I look up and down this list, the senior, junior, like Wynne definitely has experience. They have leadership and an older group. They're playing really well. Um, 18-3 on the season against really solid schedule, a good strength of schedule. I've been pretty impressed with it. I've got to put them. They're sitting in that 4, 5, 6 spot pretty consistently, depending on what's happened that week and who's won, who's lost. But they've stayed there pretty much all season. So Wynne definitely has to have consideration for at least the Final Four run. And with the senior leadership, they may stack together some quality wins at the right time, and you never know, they may be sitting at a state championship game. Pretty impressed with Wynne so far this season. And like I said, they weren't really on my radar early in the year, so props to them.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing a lot of the senior leadership. I'll actually be kind of curious. I mean, I think right now they speak for themselves. They're doing well, and they've got the stats to show it. I'd be kind of curious to see how this translates into next year. So not necessarily even right now, but yeah, clearly they've got some talent, and I think that this is just another case of a really good 4A school that's got a real chance at winning it this year.
Well, we'll move on down. Wynne, we're waiting to see what you do. Definitely on the radar. So I've got Gentry next. And like I said, this was going off my rankings earlier in the week. I think they dropped a game this week, so it might change just slightly. I don't know. I haven't even started to look at rankings yet this week. But I have from Gentry, And I do not know a ton of these kids personally. There's one or two I've heard talk to coaches about a little bit, but I'll give you a few of the names and then we'll talk about them as a team. Senior outfielder Alexis Lopez. She's got a really great batting average. She's batting 633 so far on the year. Uh, 0 errors in the outfield. That's pretty impressive. Did you know they're seeing some balls in the outfield in 4A? It's happening.
Yeah. Clearly.
Um, yeah. So Alexis is doing a great job at the plate. Iris Steele batting 500, 31 RBIs. That's pretty impressive right there. Anytime you put up anything above 20 RBIs, like you hit the ball at the right times when there's runners on base, you're a clutch hitter in my opinion. If you're going above 20 RBIs for the season, I don't know Iris personally or Alexis personally, but both of those have great stats so far. Or Maisie Hall's camper. I want to make sure I tried to say that right, so I didn't mess it up. Um, High 400 batting average, 20 RBIs. Another man. I want to tell you what, I'm impressed with the hitting stats so far. Just going down the list.
Yeah.
So junior Jamie Kirk, high 400 batting average, 23 runs scored. Junior catcher Olivia Nations is getting on base at almost 600%. I missed getting her batting average written down. I'm sorry on that one, but she's doing a great job on junior catcher. Uh, Almost 600 on base percentage. Those are the kids that you love to have on the team. They find a way on base, whatever it is, walks, getting hit by pitches, hitting the ball. And then one of the ones I've heard of, Olivia Nations, that's a name I've heard several times. She's been mentioned. She does a good job that I've heard from coaches talking. And then this next one is definitely a kid. I've heard her name a ton. And that's junior pitcher Callie Jordan. She's batting middle 400. She's got 70 innings pitched, 75 strikeouts. She's throwing the ball well. She's striking people out. She's managing the game, uh, hitting well. And I've heard Callie mentioned a ton of times. Like she's just a good, solid, all around softball player. A lot of people impressed with her. Um, I didn't have any notes on from Gentry on who was committed and who wasn't. I know a couple of these kids are probably committed, but all of these players, the thing that stands out to me, and the thing that I noticed for a team, they're hitting middle 400s as a team. That's a really great team batting average. And coach even sent me on a few notes. He said this may be the best hitting team that he had since he's been there. Well, that's pretty impressive because they've had some pretty good hitting teams up there in the
Yeah.
last few years. He said, a couple little things they got to work on defensively that's hurt them. They have had a couple of errors at the wrong time. Not a ton of errors, but just a couple of errors at the wrong time that hurt them. But they're a little bit banged up. Had a couple kids hurt, that kind of stuff. But they're starting to get kids back healthy, looking solid. They've played good, a really good strength of schedule, played great competition so far. And I've got Gentry I think at 14-5, but I haven't really dug deep to make sure I had that right. I haven't got into my ranking stuff yet and really tried to find all their games since the last ranking. But that's the biggest thing that I have seen and heard about Gentry. Is they're an outstanding hitting team. I've heard that from a couple of opposing coaches. Man, I hate having to throw the ball at Gentry. Like every one of them hit the ball. Pretty much top to bottom of the lineup, they hit the ball. And so they have outscored some teams where they couldn't seem to hold them down and they're giving up 4, 5, 6 runs a game here and there, but they were scoring 6, 7, 8, 9 runs a game. I've seen several of their games look like they were like 9-5 games, or 10-6 games. So sometimes they're just outscoring people. The Gentry's doing a good job. They played very good schedule. That's one thing in that conference up there in that corner. They're just always good teams. So they kind of beat each other up and chew each other up a little bit. So that's what I have on Gentry.
Yeah, that corner up there is a hotbed for all the good players. So, I mean, you would expect that they are just, beating each other up pretty regularly. Two seniors doing their job. 2 juniors doing their job. Well, 3 juniors doing their job. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 3. I can't count. I have a master's degree, by the way. Anyway, yeah, I think that like this team just top to bottom, they just look super solid, and I'm actually curious to see how they do in the rest of the season. Because like looking at these numbers, I'm thinking like, man, I mean, you were saying like they have high scoring games and things like that, but I just want to see more of it. So I think Gentry has a good group here, and I hope that they can band together and continue to just dominate throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, Gentry's definitely looked good so far, so we'll see how they go down the stretch. But they got with the strength of schedule and the bats that they have, I think they have a chance to make a deep run. Um,
I agree.
Next one that we got to talk about, and haven't said a lot about this team this year. A little bit last podcast. Kind of was waiting to see because they dropped one or two early in the year, but then they haven't really dropped much of anything since. So Monticello, we've talked about Monticello here over and over and over and over the last few years. And of course, we always were talking about Elena Lyle, who's now playing at OBU. She was a, all world everything. She was a great lefty pitcher. She crushed softballs over the fence on, seemed like every game she was hitting one out. So Elena did a great job there. But Elena's gone this year. And that was one of the things that I maybe wasn't quite as high as on my Monticello this year. That I knew they were a good team. They still had a ton of talent there, but I wasn't sure that they were going to be in that top five conversation. Well, I may have sold them a little bit short because they're right there. And maybe even this week when I get into rankings, they're knocking on the door of the top five, and may deserve recognition and maybe even a spot or two higher than that. But they're really looking good. They've played great, other than a loss or two early in the year. And I don't know if some of that was like injuries and getting kids back healthy, but I'll name off some of the individuals. And we talked about some of these kids a ton the last few years, but we haven't talked about them a lot this year. And they almost kind of have a who's who of kids committed to play, at least college
Yeah.
ball, if not like D1, D2 college ball. So some of the ones that I'll talk a little bit about is, Libby Kingston. She's committed to University of Central Arkansas, the UCA. Her on base, that's almost the 700 on base percent. So,
Yeah.
she's doing a great job. Addie Frazier is committed to Monticello, to University of Arkansas Monticello. Another one, high on base percentage. Some of these I didn't get their batting averages, but I had their on base percentages. So their batting averages were like 500s with those two. And on my notes, it came, and I got these from their coach. And I think it was just typo. It says Ashley Hayes on the notes, but it is actually Ashley Hale. And it's correct further down in the notes when he sent them to me.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, that's Ashley Hale. I know her. We've talked about her before, so I knew that one had to be a typo. But Ashley Hale, she's committed to Monticello also. Another one, high 500s on base, 400s batting average, high 400s batting average. All three of those that I've already mentioned, we've talked about a ton the last couple of years. They do a great job. Hardworking kids that just know how to grind it out. It seems like they teach how to grind in Monticello. And then one that I haven't talked about as much, but we started talking about her a little bit last year, and that's Felice Becker. Another Monticello commit. Man, they are stacking up. UAM is stealing them from Monticello High School down there. So they're doing a good job of recruiting local kids that are playing at a high level. Another almost 500 on base percentage. Um, you know, then Macy Stale, she's got, from what I hear, a lot of offers. Hasn't committed anywhere yet. High on base percentage. We're talking about the hitting side. We'll talk about her pitching side in a minute. Joni Jeffers. This was a young one. Freshman, hitting the ball well, getting on base a lot. Senior Kylie Lane. Now, we've talked about Kylie Lane quite a bit. Lots of power, lots of pop. She can smash the ball for sure. Another one that's on base almost 500. The thing that's amazing to me is in this group, you got almost 500 to almost 700 on base percentage out of almost the entire lineup. Well, they must be scoring a ton of runs if they're putting that many kids on base. I don't have their run differential figures, but they've got to be scoring a ton of runs if they're on base this much.
Yeah.
Um, Mia Scoggins, sophomore, uh, another really good, done a good job being on base. Now, I miss getting batting at these, and I don't know if something didn't transfer over or he just sent me on bases, but um, I think if I remember right when I was able to look at it, uh, she was batting like middle 400s. Um, and then junior Hallie Ross. Once again, this is crazy that we're seeing anywhere from upper 400s to almost 700 on bases. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10 players deep. They're putting
The
kids on
whole
base.
lineup.
The entire lineup, they're putting kids on base nonstop. Go back, talk about a little bit of these just on the hitting side. Always heard great things about Libby Kingston, Addie Frazier, Ashley Hale, Kylie Lane. And now I'm starting to hear good things about Macy Stell at the plate and Joni Jeffers. I've heard mentioned 2 or 3 times now. Like she's a freshman that's coming up and that people are like, you're gonna be seeing and hearing a lot out of this kid for the next few years. So and then to talk about their pitching just a little bit, Macy Stell and Addie Frazier have been doing pretty much all the pitching, and Ashley Hale's been doing the catching. Um, I've got them at 17-2. They won their conference, solid conference down there. They just beat Warren this week. I think it was 12-11, and like an instant classic kind of game from what I heard. They were down, battled back, came back and won 12-11. I think they were down like 4-0, 5-0 early. Came back and won 12-11. Monticello's been really tough for 4, 5, 6 years now. Been in the top 5, 6 teams for all that time that I've been doing it. Always a solid team, well coached, had quality players. I mean, you got a who's who of D2 players in this list, a D1 player in this list. Like there's a ton of kids here that are going to go play major college softball. Maybe not SEC, but strong college softball. And they're all stacked up in a little town in South Arkansas. So a lot of kids working hard, doing their job. Fantastic facilities down there. You know, so they've got what they need to put in the work. To grind, and that's what they do. I've heard this over and over about Monticello. They grind. They grind. They work on fundamentals and they grind. That's one thing I'll say. I think Monticello has a chance to make a deep run. I don't know yet if I would say that they have a chance to win the state championship. Maybe. I'm going to have to watch them a little bit more, see some more film on them. But I will say this. They are definitely in the conversation for a Final Four run, if not more. So, really impressed with Monticello so far. Of course, we got to mention some of the names, but there's a lot of talent and a lot of kids going to play college ball out of that league.
Well, if you look at stats here, I'm kind of wondering, them being a little bit lower in the rankings. I'm thinking to myself, are they just not stringing stuff together? Like, is that what this is? I don't know. Like, I just a thought. But if they do, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be in the Final Four conversation for sure. And then if not, making it past whoever that team might be in the Final Four to get to the state championship. Very impressed with these numbers though. It's not easy to achieve this high of a team on base percentage and just having the skill that they have. So I'll be very interested to see how they fare in the state tournament this year.
I'm definitely quickly. I was always a Monticello fan, and I was a huge Elena Lyle fan. Um, and I'm still a huge Elena Lyle fan, especially since she is at W, where I went to college and played a little ball, back in my day. But um, yeah, big fan of the OBU program and all that stuff over there. But I'm definitely gonna have my eyes on Monticello a lot more the next week or two going forward. watching what happens with them and what they're doing, and we'll be talking about them quite a bit more on the main pod when we cover all the classes. Next on the list, so we can move on. Lone Oak. So we had Lone Oak ranked number one. I had them ranked number one. Of course, there's 4 or 5 different rankings out there. Several others had them ranked number one and number two. A big part early in the season, several weeks early in the season. Lone Oak has been very impressive at times. They dropped a couple of games, especially to Wynne right there. I have Lone Oak at 17-5. They dropped like 3 out of 5 in the stretch there and fell pretty hard in the rankings after being way up there. But they've come back and had 2 or 3 quality wins, and they're creeping back up there. I have them at number 7 right now, but Lone Oak has the talent for sure to make a run to the top of the class for sure. So we'll talk a little bit about some individuals real quick, and then talk about them as a team. Shania Jackson is batting upper 500s. She's got 6 home runs already, so she's smacking it. Senior commit, UAPB commit, Kirsten Holt. I hear a lot of people call her Big Baby, but I hear that more than I ever hear Kirsten or anything else when we see her in the summer and everything. But she's batting almost 500, got 5 home runs. Freshman catcher Sophie Phillips is batting over 400, 4 home runs. I'm seeing a lot of power in this lineup, and I've heard that before. Junior pitcher Kendra Terry, she's hitting 400 with 3 home runs. There's another one with power, got some pop. And so that's just some of the ones that I've got names on, and we'll talk about some stuff on the team in a minute. I know one thing I will mention is they're hoping to get Sydney Scott back. She'd been out, hoping to get her back soon. Be another addition to the lineup that'll really help them. So she's been out with an ACL tear and is almost back. What I will say about them is they hit the ball really well. As a team, they can crush, and I can firsthand tell you that Kirsten Holt can smash softball. She plays on that same team with Kendall Watson. And so those two, it's like, man, you do not want to throw them the ball. Both of them they can hit it out anytime. It doesn't matter if the wind's blowing in 20 mile an hour or anything else. They've got the power to put it on over the fence. But I've been, I'm kind of impressed with these numbers top to bottom. There's seems like a lot of pop in this lineup. Several home runs in this group. Just off the top of my head, there's like 20 plus home runs between 4 players here. So you're piling up some runs right there, no matter what else you do. Kendra Terry's throwing the ball well, doing a great job there. I don't have her pitching stats in front of me, but she's doing a good job. She usually is living in that like 1.5 to 2 strikeouts per inning historically when I've seen her before. The one thing I will say, and this is maybe the only hiccup that I think that Lone Oak has, is in the games that they've lost, I've noticed some mistakes, like some errors and some stuff that hurt them. And it seemed like that's the only thing that ever seems to haunt them, because they hit well, they pitch well, but defensively they've missed it a little bit in a couple of the games that they've lost. And the errors come back to hurt them on those. Trent Davis is doing a great job over there. That program a few years ago was non-existent. Like, they were not going to be in the conversation for top 5, 6, 7 teams in the state. And Trent has done a great job of bringing that program back and really growing this group of girls, fundamentally improving, hitting the ball better, fielding the ball better than they were, and definitely has put this team together and given them a chance to make a deep run in state tournament. Can't say enough about how impressed I am with the job he's done as a coach with this team. So, great group as far as hitters for sure. I would say Lone Oak has a real chance to be in that Final Four push if they can clean up just a few things defensively. they could possibly play for state champion.
Big Baby, you said?
Yeah,
That's hilarious. I think that's so funny. But that's what I wrote down. Big Baby is hilarious. Anyway, the real softball thing for me is like, I know sometimes like it's hard to like tumble in the rankings like kind of early and then like get back up to the top, but it's not about kind of the beginning. It's about how you finish. So, if they're on a high right now and they continue it, then I agree with you. I think that they have a chance just like everybody else does. So I mean the rankings, really not not that they don't matter, but it's that we we go through this based off of like what we see, what the stats are, the wins, losses, whatever, and then when it gets down to it in the end, it might be, totally different. Like it might totally flip flop. Like the teams that just are just out end up in the final four, whatever it might be. So Lone Oak has a chance. I mean, they're a good team, they're solid. Um, so I mean, it's not really necessarily that they're a little bit lower than they probably should be. It's just how the game is. I mean, it's never just gonna be linear. So yeah, Lone Oak's got a chance.
definitely. Like I said, very impressed with the job that coach has done over there, and be interested to see how they finish out going down the stretch. After long though, that's my top 7. And these other 3, mm, probably pretty interchangeable in my just out teams. And I'm going to talk about 3 more teams here a little bit. There's probably another 3 to 5 teams behind those that we probably should be talking about as far as the 4A rating. But there's just no way to spend enough time to talk about all the good teams in 4A. There's a ton of good teams in 4A. But some of the ones that have been impressive to me so far this year, um, I will go next just because they're on the same sheet that I was just working on. No particular order here, but Gosnell. Uh, so with Gosnell, we had them a little higher early in the year. They took a couple losses. That Brooklyn team that we talked about earlier gave them a couple of losses. So that's part of it. They played good competition. They fared well. I've got Gosnell at 15-6, still a great record. Had a really strong strength of schedule, 2 or 3 good quality wins. So Gosnell is doing a pretty solid job, even though they fell down to just out of the top 7 in my ranking. They're right there knocking on the door. And if they get 1 or 2 wins here, they could jump right back into the top 7 for me. You got to start out talking about sophomore pitcher Avery McGann hitting the ball really well, batting over 500, got a couple home runs, almost 20 RBIs. She throws the ball really well. I've heard a ton about what a great talent and what an arm she has. She's got 96 innings pitched with almost 80 strikeouts, 1.5 ERA. Does a great job, especially just as a sophomore, to be throwing as well as she does, and a really tough conference up there. They just kind of beat each other up over there too in that conference. And then Emmy Weldon, sophomore utility. She's you know caught a little bit, played center field, kind of done a little bit of everything. She wore a lot of hats this year. She's batting in the middle 300s. Um, Doing a great job defensively. That was one of the notes that coaches sent me. Has been outstanding defensively. Um, Brooklyn Moore, senior shortstop, hitting in the middle 300s, and same thing, doing a great job defensively. This team plays good defense. Um, and then Cheyenne Trapp, senior third baseman, batting almost 400, right at 20 RBIs, middle 400 on base percentage. Uh, and another one, like up and down this list, you see kids with middle to upper 900 fielding percentage. So this team's playing good defense. They're pitching it well. They're playing good defense. But one thing that I will say, and I've heard this from a couple of coaches, and I've seen this in a couple of games I've watched on Game Changer and stuff where I haven't seen them in person. If they can figure out how to piece together a few more hits, they're going to get real dangerous real fast because they pitch it well. They play really good defense. Their hitting is not bad, but it's not elite. And so as a team, there's a couple of elite hitters on this team for sure, but as a team, they're not hitting it quite as well as they're doing everything else. So if this team can figure out how to put a few more bats on balls, barrel up a few more balls, you're going to see them have the chance to be really strong, make a pretty good run down to the end of this. I've definitely heard tons about McCann, in the circle, doing a great job there, how strong they are on defense. I've heard that from coaches in their conference because I've talked to 3 or 4 of the coaches in the conference, and they're impressed with them, consistently impressed with them, throwing the ball, playing defense. Now, if they can just kind of figure out the hitting side just a little bit more, put themselves on base just a few more times and find a few runs. Because did notice in several of the games they lost close games, 1-2 run games. So it's just a matter of finding a hit when they need it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, just kind of these little bitty mistakes. I mean, it's always the little things that matter the most and the difference between a win and a loss. So if they're losing these games and, they're close proximity and within score, they just got to be able to be clean, not necessarily perfect, but just be clean. And then just string the hits together the best they can, as a team.
We're going to talk about Gravette next. Definitely the thing that stood out to me about Gravette is they hit the ball really well. They're kind of on the other side of that conversation, and they are hitting the ball super well. Freshman Harper Phillips batting almost 500, 3 home runs. Your Emma Edgman batting almost 500, middle 600 on base percentage. Senior Maddie Schoonover, I think I said that right. Batting average high 400, 460, 470 range, on base percentage almost 600, 4 home runs. Like we're stacking home runs, we're stacking kids that are hitting for average. And then freshman Reese Brock batting right at 400, got 6 home runs, middle 500 on base percentage. There's 4 or 5 kids here that are absolutely hammering the ball, um, doing a great job. Pitching wise, I didn't get any numbers on their pitchers, but it looks like they pitch by committee a little bit. They've got 3 or 4 pitchers that are sharing, but I've got uh, junior Mira Russell. I hope I said that right. Freshman Corey Eaton and freshman Logan Hill, that are all kind of pitching by committee. They're sharing pretty equally on the innings, it looks like, on the notes I got back from coach. Um, and talked to a couple other people in their conference up there and asked about them. Hey, what are you impressed with from Gravette? What can you tell me? Well, mainly the response I got back is they hit the ball really well. You better come ready to pitch and play defense because they're going to put a bat on the ball. They're going to barrel it up. They're going to play. They're going to put the ball in play, or they're going to hit it over the fence. Overwhelmingly, 3, 4 people I talked to, they're smashing the softball. So great hitting team. I think they've been pretty solid on defense and pitching. I have them at 15-10, but they also have one of the best strength of schedules in the entire state. They have played some really strong competition, and that's a brutal conference for sure up there. So we talked about it earlier, kind of chewing each other up there. So we'll see how they fare going through this, but they're definitely going to hit the ball. They're definitely going to score runs, and that may lead to wins. They may just outscore people, if nothing else. So they've got several arms that can throw it. So if somebody's not having a great day, they got the option to flip somebody else, or if somebody gets hurt, they have the option to flip somebody else. That depth in the circle will definitely help them. So from what I've seen and heard so far from Gravette, great hitting team, have a chance to maybe make some noise in the stretch here.
Yeah, same kind of thing. I think that, we look at these teams that are just out and they always are like they've got players that are just right up there. Maybe they don't have as many players that are right up there, or maybe they are making mistakes that maybe other teams aren't making uh as often, but they are contenders. I mean, like we wouldn't be talking about them if they weren't. So same thing for Gravette. I think they've got a stacked pitching staff. They got some great hitters in the lineup. So, what are they going to do with that? Are they just going to, kind of hang around like they always do? Or are they going to, kind of jump back up and disrupt a little bit of what's going on in the top 8 of the rankings?
Well, I'll say this: Gravette has had 2 or 3 teams, really good teams scattered over the last 4 or 5 years when we covered them. Ran deep in state, played for. Can't remember if they won, but I know they played for a state championship. Um, I want to say year before last. I may be wrong, but definitely strong team, great hitting team, lots of history there. Um, they have a real chance to be in the mix and in the competition. And then the last one that we're going to talk about tonight, even though, like I said, 4A is deep, there's still plenty of teams that we need to talk more about and ones that are coming onto the thing late in the year, things like that. And we'll try to talk about a few more of those as we get into the overall pod and the different classes. Some of these that are starting to really show up. We'll get into those a little bit more. But to finish up 4A in-depth look right now, we're gonna say I'm gonna go with Pottsville as my other team that's on the outside looking in. And like I said, those 3 teams that are in my outside looking in, there's no particular order. They're all good teams. They're all right on the edge of getting in the rankings. Pottsville last year made a pretty decent run. Got down to the end, lost a tough, hard fought game with Mina. Um, as far as I think it was for their conference championship. Abby Copine and Addie Wilmuth both threw amazing games in that game, and it was like down to the last out kind of deal. And if I'm not mistaken, Mina beat them 2-1 in the conference championship. Like it was a dog fight. Going into Pottsville, several of these kids I have seen, a few I haven't. I will say this: Savannah Mackey is a kid that I've been impressed with several times at summer ball, center, and travel ball. She hits it well. She pitches it well. She does a lot of good things. She's committed to Hendricks. She's batting .464 on the year with 6 home runs, 26 RBIs. She's been walked 12 times on intentional walks. So we'll stay off that subject, but that's another one that people don't like throwing to her. And she's doing a good job pitching the ball. She's got I don't have her innings pitched, but she's got a 1.685 ERA and a .161 batting average against. So she's throwing it well. She's sitting batters down. She's doing a good job. Then you've got that was senior Savannah Mackey. Then you've got junior catcher Madison Kelly. I'm gonna tell you, this is another kid you do not want to throw the ball to. She hits the ball well. She's batting middle 400s. She's got 3 home runs, 20 RBIs. I'll say this about Madison Keller: even when it doesn't go over the fence, she hits the ball hard almost every time at the plate. Like she hits laser beam. Lots of balls in the gap. Lots of balls that line drive outs to short, line drives out, third base, stuff like that. She's a little scary to stand in front of when she's swinging the bat too. Um, she's been walked intentionally 18 times. So we've got over 30 intentional walks in those 2 hitters. So Pottsville's putting a lot of people on base without ever doing
Yeah,
anything.
for sure.
She's already caught 5 or 6 kids stealing this year as a catcher. She does a great job. I will say this: she blocks really well. I've seen her in person. She does a great job of blocking behind the plate. One of the better catchers I've seen as far as blocking behind the plate. And then Addie Wilmuth, she is a national park commit. She's coming to play with my daughter next year. Been really impressed with Addie Wilmuth. She pitches, plays center field. She's batting really well too. She's hitting 500. She's only struck out 3 times all year. She's 6-1 in circle with an under 1 ERA, a .792 ERA. So she is setting kids down at a pretty regular clip. 170 batting average against. She's got 68. Let's say 68 strikeouts and 35 into pitch. So basically a 2-to-1 rate. And I'll say this: what I've seen and what I know about Addie Wilmuth on a personal level, she's a great kid, but she's that kid that you can, hey, go throw me 10 innings. She's gonna go throw 10 innings. Hey, I need you to throw 8, 9 innings today. I need you to throw 8, 9 innings tomorrow. That's your kid. She's like rubber arm. She does a great job. Always a competitor. Very impressed with her. she's that kid that's going to go work super hard and run through a brick wall for you. So very impressed with her. All three of those are really good ball players that we've already talked about that I've seen. I know enough about them. I can tell you they're great softball players. A couple that I don't know here, but I've heard good things about. Layla Joe Robinson, batting like 420. She plays outfield, done a good job. And she's a junior. And then Jocelyn Renfro, she's a senior shortstop, batting in the middle 300s. Utility, they've moved her all over the place. So they put her wherever they need her. Kaylin Leverett, batting almost 400. And she's got 18 RBIs. And then another one that I've seen quite a bit, Callie Holcomb. She's a senior playing third base, I think, for them. She's got a high fielding percentage. That's one thing, and I've seen quite a bit out of her in the past. She's got a good glove, does a great job. Just a solid little softball player. So that's another one that I've seen from this group. I seem to have seen quite a few from this group too. And that's strange being up in that part of the world. But I think just they played the schedule in the summer that I've seen quite a bit out of them. And then I had some notes come from their coach, freshman Addie Potts, playing second, and Bailey Gaston outfield and pitched a little bit. They're both hit over 300 in the first season, starting all year long. They just ones to watch for that I got from their coaching staff that are doing a good job, stepping up, starting to play as freshmen. I'll say this about Pottsville as a team. I've seen them in person twice, I think last year. Have not seen them in person this year, but I know they're loaded with athletes. They got kids that can play the game. I looked at their schedule a little bit the other day when I was looking at rankings. That's part of the reason I threw them into the mix as far as the outside looking in. They played some really good competition. They're 14-6 is what I have them down for, and they've done that with several injuries this year too. Played through the injuries, still got a good record, played a strong strength of schedule, and I think they're about to have everybody back healthy. Like it's kind of coming back together, so they have a chance to make a little run here at the end. And as good as as good as Savannah and Addie are throwing it, and the bats that they have, they they could easily, go fours and do a great job and make a run deep in the state right here. Anyway, I don't know if any of y'all
Yeah.
could hear that. I don't know if it comes through on speaker, but I just got an alert for fire department, so it was like blaring. It was like wee, wee. Who knows? I had to move
Um,
that one off the screen, or it would have been screeching at us.
Pottsville's always been a talented team, even like going back to when I was in high school. So I'm not surprised that they're in the mix, and I definitely would always keep them in the conversation. Yeah, kind of the same story. Like most of these teams that end up in the rankings and the ones that we talk about that are just outside of it, they all are just super talented. It's about how are they putting it together in a timely fashion. Everybody's like I think state state's up for grabs for all of 4A. I'm extremely impressed with this classification, and I think it doesn't matter which way you write it up. It could go any way every single day. And one week they could play the same team as the next week, and it'd be a totally different result. That this classification is that talented. So I am curious to see how it plays out going into postseason and how 4A kind of fares against each other. Seems like it's just a dogfight all the way around.
Well, one thing I'll say about 4A, I feel like I'm always impressed with 4A that there's so much talent at that level. Every year in, year out, this year's no exception. 4A just seems like they're deep. Like I mean, we talked about 10 teams tonight. There's legitimately 15 to 18 teams that are really good in 4A. And I guarantee you tomorrow there's going to be 4 teams going, why did you not talk about us? Well, we can't be on here for 2 or 3 hours. And so, but yes, definitely other teams that have an argument that they should be mentioned, talked about, and we as they move up into the final part of this year, we'll try to get a couple of those other teams mentioned, especially in the big pod. But I'm always impressed with 4A, the level of talent, and 4A is always that level that it seems like they're knocking off 5A and 6A schools on a regular clip. Even though there's a little smaller classification, seems like they have enough talent. 4A and schools are like located in those communities that have a lot of athletes and things like that. 4A's impressed me year after year as a classification. You're always going to have a lot of talent at 6A because they're just big schools. So many kids to pick from. They're really talented at a much smaller school. So, um, definitely impressed with that. This is just about as much as we can pack into one pod and get some of these kids talked about and recognized. But definitely a lot of good teams here, and it'll be interesting to see how 4A shapes out over the next couple weeks and going into playoffs and state. So
Yep,
that's
totally agree. I'll be curious to see how it goes and excited. I think this is, you always kind of wonder like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. I'm excited to see it. I think this is a super competitive, super gritty group. So very curious to see how it pans out towards the end. Well, we're knocking them out. We got 2 left. We'll hit you guys with a weekly pod coming up pretty soon. Get that out to you in a couple days. And yeah, keep sending us info. Keep talking about softball. That's what's important to us. And we hope we could just spread the word and build the platform.
5A's coming soon.
Very soon, whenever we find time in our busy lives, when I'm not making a batch of cinnamon rolls